everybody. Hi, Garrett.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Becca.
Hello, hello.
Hi, everyone out there. I'm Tom Urrutia, and welcome back to Triple Threat, the first in a series of albums that you probably know, but we're still going to talk about it because you can't stop us from doing it.
Yeah.
We decided that we're going to tackle the big ones, first. So we're going to start with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It was their 8th album in the UK, because that's the way that they do their business. It was released June 1st, 1967 in the UK. It was a day later here in the US. So we're going to talk about this album, how we feel about this album, the underappreciatedness of it, or as someone would say, maybe the overappreciatedness of it. So before we begin, I'm just a quick check-in with our guests. Becca, how are you doing today?
Sick.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
And Garrett?
I'm doing fine. I'm a little tired. I just got off work.
Well, that's good. And yeah, work's always good. And so why don't we go ahead and jump into this album? Does anybody want to start? Want to give a little backstory?
I would love to, thank you.
Then please, take it away.
Okay, so let's back it up a bit to 1966. The Beatles had just finished touring. I believe it was the U.S. was their last. Yeah, it was the U.S. their last tour. And by all that time, they were sick of playing live to stadiums full of girls who were screaming so loud they couldn't possibly hear each other on stage. And so they were looking for some kind of excuse to not go on tour anymore. So they came up with this idea of, let's send the album on tour, much like I think the inspiration was Elvis sending his car on tour. And so they also realized with these new songs they were making, they couldn't really perform them live logistically. It would take a lot of keyboards that not all four of them would be able to play everything on stage at once. So not only did this move to go off stage for the rest of their career benefit them sanity-wise, I mean, where they wouldn't have to just go and play to these nauseating concerts, and instead have the freedom to do whatever they wanted, however they wanted in the studio. And so they started this off with a single that sounded pretty much different than anything they had done before, even though there were some inklings of different stuff on Revolver, their 66 album. And this single was Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane, which we're going to delve into right now.
Yes, but before we do that, I just want to mention, you mentioned how the Beatles stopped touring and worked on this album, but we know that's not technically true because the Beatles did take some time off for a while. We know that John went to Spain to film the movie How I Won the War, which is where he actually wrote the song Strawberry Fields Forever.
That's right.
Because we've all heard the demo, which was on Anthology 2, I believe. Yeah. And George went to, I think he went to India to study the sitar some more because he had just gotten to it about 2 years earlier and was studying with the one and only, the late great Ravi Shankar. And Ringo, I don't remember what Ringo was doing at the time. I know Paul was getting into composition because he had written the soundtrack to The Family Way.
Yeah.
Because
was Ringo doing anything with his acting career at that time, maybe?
I don't... I'm not sure. I know that Ringo was in movies towards the end of their career.
Yeah.
But if he wasn't anything, I don't remember. I think he was having a baby at that time.
Oh, yeah, he was spending time with the family.
Right.
It's being Ringo.
Right. So,
which is awesome already.
Yeah, so and if you've seen the anthology movies, you know they're the video segments of all four of them arriving at EMI Studios, being interviewed because that was the first time they had set foot in that studio in quite a while. And you hear the interview, they ask, what's the status of the band, and John says, oh well, we're trying to kind of figure things out, and so. Yes, they did take a break for a while, but this time they did have material to come back from. So the single came out in late '66. Went to #1 in the U.S., #2 in the U.K. And then the Beatles started to work on this song, on the album. I'm sorry, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Before they did, Paul and Mal Evans took a trip to, I believe they went to Spain too.
Actually went to Africa.
Oh, they went to Africa. I'm sorry. They went to Africa. Paul got the idea. He came back, and they started recording it in late '66. And in fact, only recorded one song, completed one song in '66, but we'll get to that. So the album begins with the title track of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Well, that's quite the opener.
I agree. Garrett, what do you think of it?
Well, I think it's great because, like, we haven't mentioned quite yet that Sgt. Pepper's is technically, you might call it a concept album, because the whole idea of the album is that it's a show being put on by this band that the Beatles really like and just happen to look like. And so Sgt. Pepper's begins with crowd noise before the concert itself actually begins. So you get so many seconds of that, and then the band comes in and you just immediately like it. I can't help but get hyped up whenever I hear the beginning guitar solo and the drums and everything. It's just,
Yeah, it's very builds up the hype. It's just like, yes, this is gonna be good.
Oh yeah, and I love the fact that it does begin like that. And like I said, I like the idea of the album going on tour and the idea that it is a show with all these different musical stylings in it. And I think that as the opening track, I thought was a very good choice. But I had to say, because I heard the song from watching Yellow Submarine. So and there's that segment in the middle. You're such a lovely audience. We'd like to take you home. In the movie, that part is spoken by the guy who voices John. I don't remember his name right now. So when I got the album, I was like, okay, where is it? I've been used to hearing it so many times, but like over the years, I've definitely gotten used to it. I like the idea of 20 years ago today, and we should also say that song was played by Jimi Hendrix performed it shortly after the album came out.
Like 3 days after the album's release.
Yeah, which is wild.
Yeah, Jimi Hendrix, man, he is a boss.
Yeah, and his version is quite good. I've heard it and I really enjoy it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the next track, I loved this song from the first time I hear it. I still do, with a little help from my friends, brilliantly crossfading to that song and giving you the introduction to the one and only Billy Shears, who comes in to sing you this happy-go-lucky song. So let's get some impressions on that. What do you think of that song, Becca?
Quality song. It's a very, very, nice, happy song. And Ringo. I mean, Ringo.
Yeah, Ringo.
Sing that song than Ringo, honestly. I love the fact that Ringo sings that song, and I don't know why. It just works for me.
Well, I really like, I honestly think this is definitely probably one of Ringo's best performances on any record ever.
Vocally, yeah, absolutely.
Totally. And it's also, I think, probably the best song of anything that he's sung.
Oh, definitely. He's performed this, so many times live. It's almost become his signature song in a way.
Oh, totally.
Right.
I especially like how he's humble enough to say, you know what, this is the only reason I'm here, is because I have great friends who are really talented and managed to pick me up and bring me into this band.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
Yeah, just the whole, because I really feel like that's, even though he didn't write the song, I really feel like he sings it from the heart, that he really knows where they were, where their heads were when they were writing the song.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you read the stories, you know that John and Paul kind of coached him through it. And, let's face it, that last note at the end.
Oh, yeah. I have trouble with that. And I'm nowhere near... I'm a little bit better than Ringo at singing, perhaps.
Maybe. It's tough to
Yeah.
do.
But
Right.
I mean, lot of people would say that's not hard to be better than Ringo at singing.
Right. But with a song like that, you just...
To which I say, shut up.
Right. But with a song like that, you know, you can't help it because it's, as Becca said, it's Ringo. You know, he's the adorable one. He can sing, you know, I get by a little help from my friends, and we all go, aww. But it is playful. I do like it. You know, even as a kid, I didn't mind the I get high with a little help from my friends because I was like I don't mind that because it's Ringo.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. It doesn't necessarily have to be a drug reference, that line, because
I always just interpreted it as that was a drug reference.
Right, it doesn't have to be though. You can, you know, like honestly, I get a high doing these podcasts with you guys because I love talking about music and stuff.
Aww.
Yeah. Cute. I'm bringing in the feels, man.
Nice. And we also talk about the naughty bits. What about what do you
talking about naughty bits? Whoa, hold on. This is a family friendly podcast, Tom.
Oh, stop.
Shut the. Okay, go ahead.
You know, what do you see when you turn out the light? I can't tell you, but I know it's mine. That's Ringo playing with his, you know, glow in the dark stick.
Stop it. Stop it. That is not what that means at all.
Well, we're not going to say it.
I've never taken that interpretation from that line, ever.
Well, I know. It's just, it's weird, because, you know, I always interpret it as a drug line, and I always interpreted that as something a little bit naughty, but they could have rewritten that, but they did actually rewrite one line in the song. The opening. What would you do if I sang out of key? Would you stand up and walk out on me? The original line was, would you stand up and throw a tomato at me?
Except they realized, holy hell, that's a lot of syllables.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but if you think about it, you know, we hear the stories that the Beatles, I forget who said it, but they said, you know, yeah, you know, we like the candy you throw at us, so the audience would throw more at them.
Yeah.
So
they would throw jelly babies. Have you ever?
Oh no.
Have you ever held jelly baby? They're tight little mother.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're like jelly beans, except they're about 3 times as big in the shape of small children. And, yeah. But think of the hardness of jelly bean being thrown at you in handfuls. It sucks, man.
Right. That is
one moment where I would not like a jelly baby.
Right. That's why I always interpreted it as that's why the line was changed.
That's probably it.
Right. But you know, but Ringo's always told the story that they gave that to him and he said, "I am not singing that."
Yeah.
Before we move on, I just want to mention one quick thing about A Little Help from My Friends, which, you know, we talked about the adorableness. For anyone who has not heard it, there's an adorable audio clip of Sean Lennon. He's like 5 years old, singing with a little help from my friends to John. You've heard it?
Oh, yes, I have. I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's the cutest thing.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's still Sean Lennon's favorite Beatles song.
Right. Well, he has said in recent interviews. I remember there was an interview when he was about 12 when asked if there is a favorite, and he said, I don't have a favorite because I've heard it all. But when he's 5 years old, you know, I could picture him as that's his favorite song because he sings it to John, and even John himself struggles to find the words to it.
He goes, oh yeah, here's the next line.
Yeah, and then...
I wrote this thing like, what, 13 years ago? I should know it.
And then he gets to the very end, he's like, oh, right, with a little help from my friends. He's like, that's the song.
I've said that about 20 times.
Yeah. So...
Could change, you never know. Throw some tricks in there.
Right. So that's one where you talk about the adorableness. I have to bring that up. For anyone who has not heard it, go find that audio clip. It is adorable.
It's the cutest thing. You will not regret it. Oh, my God.
So we move on to Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, the third song on the LP, and one of the few songs that John made on this record. Because it's interesting. We talk about the Beatles as a band, but John really doesn't shine much on this album.
What are you talking about?
Okay, granted,
he writes are freaking brilliant.
Well,
every time you get to a John song on this album, you love it.
Right. What I'm talking about is the fact that John, he only writes about maybe 3 or 4 songs, and they're all really good ones.
Quantity-wise, though, yeah.
Yeah, quantity-wise, he's not represented. And, but this song, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, this is one I have to be blunt. I heard it, and I was like, I didn't get it. I appreciate it a lot more now, but I when I went back to listen to it, again, getting ready for this, there's something about the song that I think it's a little too slow.
Yeah.
That's my only problem with it. But I like the song. What do you think, Becca?
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds?
Oh yeah.
Quality song. Very quality.
Excellent.
It's hard not to. All the songs on this album are quality. It's hard to give much. It's hard for me personally to give much new insight on this album because it's done so much. I said it. There it is. The elephant in the room. I think Sgt. Pepper is a tad overrated.
Oh, that's all right. I honestly say I have to agree with you. I mean, people say this is the best Beatles album. It's definitely, I would think, the quintessential Beatles album.
It is the quintessential one, and it's a very good one to, you have to hear it.
Yeah.
It's one of those albums that you must hear, and it's fantastic from start to finish. Beautiful, well-crafted songs.
Right, and it's number 1 on the Rolling Stone list of 500 albums you must listen to before you die, for a very good reason, because this is one of those few songs where every song just works.
Definitely.
Except on repeat listening, and in comparison to other albums that, they might have a bum track or two.
Right.
It doesn't quite hold up as well as you might think.
Right. I've always said that,
In my opinion, anyway.
I've always said that Sgt. Pepper's, yes, it is a great album, but I've always wondered, do we accept that it's the greatest album ever because it's bopped over our heads by everyone? Do we just...
Kind of what I think it is.
Yeah, do we just accept it? I mean, I'm not going to give it away until the end, what I think of the whole thing, but I agree. It is the quintessential, you must hear it, but personally, it's not my favorite of the albums.
Right.
Right.
And a lot of people, recently actually, a lot of people have been saying, no, Revolver is the greatest Beatles album ever.
Well, yeah, because that one is my favorite.
That'll make me sad.
To which I say, no, I disagree.
Right. But...
Oh, wait.
Nice. But getting back to, I mean, like we said...
But yeah, it's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Right. Well, I was getting the point that I feel like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds loses me a little bit because it is a little bit slower than the first two tracks. But I do like the imagery. I like it's, like I may have mentioned this in one of our previous episodes. It's one of the few Beatles songs or few songs ever that I learned the entire lyrics from start to finish.
Nice.
And my dad coached me in the back of our old car, which I wish we still had. He taught me line by line, and then at the end I recited it back to him, and that's what kind of got him thinking that, okay, if he watched Yellow Submarine and he knows all 15 of those songs by heart, let's try the whole catalog.
There you go. It's a very beautiful, flowing song. Very dreamlike.
Very dreamlike.
And it begins so brilliantly.
Oh, I love it.
It's so simple. You just play doon 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 doon, and you just go ah.
Right.
It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, and recorded very well too.
Oh yeah.
The beautiful, synth.
John's vocal on this.
Oh
John
yes, the beautiful opening.
Sings it pretty much all the way through his nose, and it shouldn't work, but it does.
Oh yes. And, well, that's because the mono mix is actually a bit lower, so it is a bit slower, and John's vocals definitely give you the appearance that he is singing it through his nose. But one thing that, like I said, is recorded well. The opening is done very well. The drum kick is right in your face. The harmonies explode in your face too.
Yeah.
I just love that. And again, we're talking about John and his son. This song, I believe, was actually inspired by Julian.
It was.
Yeah. Does anybody want to give the backstory to this?
It was forgive me, was it a drawing or a painting? It was some sort of artwork done by Julian, I believe at school.
It was a
For a girl that he knew whose name was actually Lucy, and it was, in fact, Lucy in the sky with a couple of diamonds here and there.
Right, because kids can't draw people on the ground.
Nope.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Pretty sure it was a watercolor painting. Not like everyone says how LSD is in the title. Shut up.
Right.
It was a kid.
Oh, it's in the 60s, so it must be about drugs.
Gotta be.
Right.
Like, I understand, first off, why you would think it is, because it has LSD.
It's dreamlike, very trippy, very
It has LSD as the initials of the song. I get that. That's a weird coincidence, and just listening to the imagery in the song of the tangerine trees and the newspaper taxis and stuff, it sounds like
He's on tangerine, he must be on drugs.
it sounds like a total trip fest when you listen to it. But it totally wasn't the inspiration of the song, even though, honestly, it probably had some bearing on how the lyrics were written.
Oh, yes. And just a quick note, we should mention that the woman I'm looking to see, the girl's name was Lucy O'Donnell, and she actually passed away a few years ago.
yes.
And Julian Lennon actually has a tribute song to her, simply called Lucy, which you can buy, and I believe the proceeds go to a charity. So that's kind of cool. And kind of on a really fun side note, the drawing is owned by, do you know?
I used to know at one point, but I forgot entirely.
David Gilmour.
No, it was David. It was either him or somebody else. I forget. Yeah.
Yeah, David Gilmour owns the original drawing. So that's kind of bizarre and unique, but that's really cool. Yeah.
I'm just gonna, while we're on this quick subject, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I think David Gilmour is the best guitarist ever. Mic drop. I'm out.
Girl Scouts. Agreed, by the way.
Girl Scouts agree on David Gilmour?
They better.
Okay.
They're smart.
So getting better.
Yes, Getting Better was the fourth song on this album. Mainly a Paul song. I may have mentioned this before. I heard this through the Smash Mouth cover, and then
Smash Mouth covered this?
they did. They covered it for yeah. They did that for another movie that Garrett will probably go about. They did it for the soundtrack to the real life Cat in the Hat movie.
Excuse me.
It's
I have a violent allergic reaction to terrible movies.
So they Smash Mouth covered it. I got the soundtrack and I opened the booklet and I see it's written by these two guys, Lennon and McCartney, and I'm going, hey, aren't those guys that were in like that band that one time?
I think they were kind of they had a few good ones here and there.
Yeah.
That one time.
Right.
Very accurate summary of the Beatles.
Right. And then I think it was that same year for Christmas I got the album, and that was the first song I played, and I thought it was done really well. I like this song a lot. What do you think of it, Garrett?
Well, I mean, it's definitely not my favorite song on the album, but it's one that I listen to. I'm like, yeah, it's good. I like this. I really like the way that it was written, and that Paul had, the main melody and everything written out, and I think it was spontaneously in the studio while they were jamming with it, trying to figure out something to make it, give it a little more pep, a little more character, that Paul would sing, what was it?
It's getting better all the time.
No, it's...
just go, it couldn't get no worse.
Yeah, where John comes in with "Can't Get No Worse."
Love that.
Oh,
yeah.
That gives it just that little teaspoon of darkness to a very happy song already.
Right.
So good.
And that
except for I say it's a happy song, but it also has blatant references to an abusive relationship.
Oh yes.
Oh, yeah.
I used to be cruel to my woman. I beat her and kept her apart from the things she loved. And you go, oh.
Well, okay.
Yeah, but then he comes back around and says, I was mean, but I'm changing my scene.
And I'm doing the best I can, struggling through it. And I'm like, who else is struggling here?
Right. And
probably her.
Yeah, and interestingly, in the Smash Mouth cover, they actually take that verse out, probably because if you want to play it on the radio, you can't really say that. I mean, nowadays, you can probably get away with it.
If you're a rap artist.
Oh, yeah, but I'm saying, they took that verse out, so when I heard the Beatles version, I was like, oh, this is something new.
Yeah.
I like this. And like you said, Paul has admitted that was very, probably one of the last real Lennon-McCartney collaborations.
Yeah, it reminds me of when John came up with the "I love you" part in Michelle for River Soul.
Oh, I didn't know he did that.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was the one. Like Paul had the main bits of the song, and then John said, "All right, right here, we need to say I love you, I love you, I love you." That bit. That was all John.
Oh, well, look at him being so sensitive.
Yeah.
I mean, and of course the Beatles did it later. They did it with "I've Got a Feeling."
Yeah.
Well, but that was technically two songs that they merged into one.
Yeah.
Right,
So
but
this is definitely one of those last gasps of synergy that Lennon and McCartney ever had.
yeah, and Paul actually performed it live on his 2001 tour.
Yes.
Yeah, he did it with his band, and that version was awesome.
So good.
Yeah. So,
You can hear it on back in the U.S.
yes, go check that out. It was an amazing version of that. And plus, we should mention when we get to the end of it, we'll realize how many songs nowadays have actually been played by actual Beatles.
Yeah, Paul keeps expanding the catalog.
Right, and we forgot to mention that "Loose in the Sky with Diamonds," just getting back to that real quickly, Elton John did a cover of it, and John contributed backing vocals to it. And when John was invited by Elton to perform on stage, they performed that song.
And it's so good.
Yeah.
There's been a little bit in the middle where Elton John is singing the most of the song, and there's this bit in the middle where they do a breakdown, and I guess you can kind of hear Elton's gesturing to John, "Hey, go up to that microphone," and you can hear John singing "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds," probably for the first time since the album.
Right, and the only time, because Paul has never bothered to play it. Probably because he felt it is John's song, so he should just leave it alone.
Yeah-ish, but I mean, "A Day in the Life" is also John's song.
Right, but we'll get to that one.
Yeah.
And speaking of Paul performing live, the next track, "Fixing a Hole," is on the album. Really good song, and really another... this is where I kind of have a problem with the album, because you get almost 3 Pauls right in a row.
Yeah.
So
But they're all so very different, though. It doesn't really feel like you're being beaten over the head with Paul McCartney.
Oh, yes, definitely. But I do, because one of the great things why I love Beatle albums is because a lot of them are sequenced so perfectly.
Yeah.
At most you'll get maybe 2 Pauls or 2 Johns right in a row. But for some reason, this one, like you said, it puts me off a little bit, but because they are so different, you don't even notice it after a while.
Right.
But "Fixing a Hole," let's get some impressions on it. What do you think of it, Becca?
Fixing a hole?
Yeah.
I really like it. Did I talk about getting better? I forget. Because I would have gone off about that one.
I don't think you did, actually.
Oh, yeah. I had a lot to say about that one, but I forgot it all.
So "Fixing a Hole."
Right. Yeah, so "Fixing a Hole." Wow, "Getting Better" was the only one I had a lot to say about. For a while, anyway.
It's good.
That's really all I could say about "Fixing a Hole." It's not a standout to me, for some reason.
No.
What do you think of it, Garrett?
Well, I have to agree, it's not, a standout to me as well, but it has a really cool melody that takes a lot of range to really get it. I can't possibly sing this as well as Paul did in '67. And it's got some really cool imagery in it as well. Fixing a hole where the rain gets in and stops my mind from wandering. You kind of have to sit back and wonder, what exactly does that mean, if anything?
Yeah, to this day, I still really don't know what the song is about. I lose myself in the imagery, and I'll go, you know what? I'll just let it pass.
Yeah, I feel like it's something sitting down to consider a tricky situation.
Oh, yes.
Something like that.
Right. I'm sure it has a deeper and actual meaning to it.
Yeah, and also, I also get this feeling of there's a few distractions here and there. Let's clear those away and really get down to this issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those songs where, I don't know.
But it's still relaxed.
Me personally, I have to be in, a particular mindset for it. I
Right.
don't know.
Right. I can still listen to it, and I enjoyed it. When I played it the last time getting ready for this, I actually found myself kind of bopping along to it and really singing along with. Like you said, Garrett, it is really a tour de force to sing.
Oh, yeah. But it's so weird because it's a really relaxing chill kind of loping song, and just the way the drums come in is just dit, 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 and the guitar solo in the middle was just it blows my mind.
Oh, I love the guitar solo.
So simple.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Works.
Yeah. It's almost got like a little bit of a talk box effect on it, because it goes bow now wow wow.
Yeah.
I love that thing of it. And we're getting back to, Paul, after the guitar solo, comes in and almost skips a whole octave going up to that bridge part. It really doesn't matter if I'm wrong, I'm right. But I got to say, we're talking about, unusual things. I always wondered, what exactly did he mean by people standing around wondering they can't get past my door? Because I thought, is there a hole in front of his house that no one can get over?
We may never know.
We may never know.
But he actually lives in the Sea of Holes.
Oh, very nice.
That's what the song's about.
Right, which I actually heard, again, on Yellow Submarine at the very end, when George is, I've got a hole in me pocket. Fix it, to keep his mind from wondering. And I gotta say, when Paul performed, when I saw him in 2005, I was very happy to hear him. It was just him on the piano. It wasn't a harpsichord like it is on the record. And
by the way, which is anytime you put in a harpsichord is a good time.
Right, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, when he performed it live during the guitar solo, I think all he did was he just went ooh, and it was like real spooky too. It added a really nice. I mean, he's never released it on any CD, but I think it's on the DVD, The Space Within Us, because that was the tour that he was doing at the time, which I got to see him on.
Close your eyes, hold your breath, make a wish, count to 3, and come with me. Ignorance will surely trap the mind, but minds are meant to flow. Come on the amazing journey. We'll learn all we should know. Hello, people of the internet. I'm Garrett Hicks, co-host of the Triple Threat podcast, and I'm bringing you a brand new show called Amazing Journey. First, I'll give you some background information. I'm 20 years old, and I've listened to only 3 bands in my adolescent and adult life: The Beatles, The Who, and Pink Floyd. I've been looking for something new recently, so I've decided to go through my iTunes library and listen to every album I've never bothered to play. To make this experiment a bit more interesting, I've also enlisted my friends to lend me copies of albums they have that are on lists of all-time greats. Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest, Time Magazine's 100 Greatest, 1001 Recordings to Hear Before You Die, and so on. Once I listen to an album, I'll record my immediate reaction and post it for you, the viewers. For the most part, I'll go in chronological order by release date of the albums I actually own. I'll format my reviews like so. First, I'll give some background info on the album, including inspirations, release date, and personnel. I'll touch on the hits, or at least the well-known tracks, and then I'll mention any tracks that I particularly enjoyed. I'll give some final thoughts to wrap things up, and at last, I'll rate the album. Thumbs up, thumbs middle, or thumbs down, and supply a brief explanation why. And that'll be it. I'm really excited about this new show, and I hope you are too. Be sure to follow me on Mixcloud, favorite if you liked it, share on Facebook, and give a listen to my other Cloudcast, Triple Threat. If you have any suggestions for me, like an album you'd love for me to review, comment below and I'll do my best to accommodate. Tune in next time for Episode 1, West Side Story. Bye-bye.
So we move on to She's Leaving Home. Personally,
This song is beautiful.
my favorite song on the album.
I agree.
Right, because the first time you heard it, as a little kid, you couldn't help but cry a bit. Because as a
Still,
kid,
I can't help but cry a bit.
oh, definitely. But as a kid,
Beautifully written songs. You could take away a new meaning from every time you listen to it.
oh yes,
I gotta say, just hearing the harp beginning at the start of it, it just makes you go, oh, okay.
Because
I like.
Well, he brings you way down with She's Leaving Home because he got getting better and fixing a hole, and then he brings you way down.
Oh yeah.
Which kudos to Paul, but it's like, damn you, Paul! I was in a good mood.
I'm not crying, just sweating from my eyes working out really hard.
Right.
And
gosh, no tears.
And I will say this is definitely not my favorite song on this album. I kind of rank it kind of low-ish. It's a very good song for what it is, and I really only like listening to it in sequence with the album.
Right. Because on the album, you have the next few songs, and it kind of brings you back up.
Yeah. It's just with this one, it seems almost a little bit overwrought, maybe a bit overproduced. I mean, there's the harp and there's the strings and the da-da-da-da. It just kind of overwhelms me a little bit, like, oh, he's trying to be classy.
Right. But I think that's why it works for me, because, as a kid, you can imagine as a kid, at least for me, you hate your parents and you want to run away from home, but then you hear something like this and you kind of go, oh, that would be devastating.
Yeah, you never think about how your parents would react to this.
Oh God, that's my favorite part of the whole song, when the mother gets out and finds the note and she just cries and cries.
How did you do this to me?
Yeah, I know it sounds kind of evil, but that's my favorite parts, because I just imagine like this broken home, and and every time I hear it, I actually picture my own house. And so I literally see the note on top of my staircase, and I literally see the girl go out the back door of my house, and I go, oh wow.
Yeah, I do this. I think of this as my childhood house as well, that I moved out of when I was like 5, and because it has that that straight stairway that has a bit of a flat bit at the end of the railing where it would be the perfect place to leave a note, and Mom used to the master bedroom there was upstairs. So seeing someone come down, not necessarily my parents, but just a parent figure come down and just start sobbing at the foot of the stairs is a very powerful image.
Oh yes. Right, and we should mention we were talking about alternate things. Your Beatles mono box set will include the mono mix of She's Leaving Home, which is which is a bit higher, which increases the song's tempo. But according to Richard Lush, who was the engineer, he says the only real version of this album, and particularly She's Leaving Home, is the mono version.
Agreed.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, it is. I've heard the mono version, and it is odd because you hear it faster and you're not used to hearing it, but for some reason it becomes a little bit more, intense.
Yes, absolutely agree. It hits a bit harder, especially in that new key.
Yeah.
Right. And Paul actually performed it live during his 2002 tour, which for some reason you can only get on the live album Back in the World, which I think is out of print, but that's the only different song. And he only performed that in Europe, so it was like, why don't we get that?
Yeah.
They don't like us.
Yeah, he doesn't like us. But
it might have been one of those things where they performed it early in the tour, and then they came to America, and they were like, this is just so hard. No, don't worry about it. We'll get something else.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if I was in Paul's band, God help me.
I mean, think of Pink Floyd in '87 tried to play Echoes at every concert, and they were like, no, not happening.
Well, as I can say, if I was in Paul's band, and hopefully I will be, but I can just imagine. I mean, the real heartbreaking part of the song is, when I think it's Paul and George doing the she and John singing the part in between. I mean,
yes.
to sing that night after night. I mean, not that it's a difficult thing to sing, but when you sing it that high, it gets really sad.
Yeah.
And I think that actually John came up with that whole section. We gave her everything that money could buy.
I wouldn't be
always
surprised.
coming up with the really good parts.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, again, another Lennon McCartney composition there. And also, kind of on a side note, because Garrett and I, we watched that Beatles Stories documentary, and there's that story with Brian Wilson, where the guy asked Brian, do you remember meeting the Beatles in the 60s? And Brian said, yeah, Paul came to the studio with his publisher, and my wife and I were there, and he played She's Leaving Home from us on the piano before they had recorded it. And he said, and we both cried. It was such a beautiful moment that will live forever in my heart.
Aww.
Oh, and Brian Wilson has often said that's one of his absolute favorite songs of all time.
Yeah.
And yeah, and speaking of Brian Wilson, later we'll get to the idea of how much the Beach Boys really influenced this album.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next track, again, bringing you way back up, we have the Happy-Go-Lucky John with Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite.
Wait. Happy-go-lucky with this song? I don't think that's quite the right adjective. I mean, this song is...
Dumb.
What?
Dumb.
Dumb?
I don't like this song.
Oh, that cut me deep, Becca.
I'm sorry, buddy.
I was just about to say, this song is my favorite on the album. So I guess if I can say She's Leaving Home kind of sucks, then yeah, you're entitled. But I really like the song because, mainly because the idea of an evil carnival for some reason is so awesome to me.
See, I never got the idea of it was an evil carnival.
Really?
Yeah, well, it wasn't until I heard the Love version where they bring in Helter Skelter at the end, and that's when I kind of felt it maybe was a bit evil.
Yeah, but I mean, I always thought it was definitely a little badass, a little awesome, definitely very creepy at some points, especially just the beginning of it with the harmonica and it sounds like a fluty sort of synthesizer. I just can't get enough of the song. I could play it on repeat for hours.
See, like I'm like hearing that opening in my head. I'm trying to think, does it set up an evil mood? But for me, I'm going, no, it's just the sound of a carnival.
Yeah, that's a feeling I get for too. Like,
But then, and
I like hearing it in the context of the album, but it's not something I'd seek out outside of the context of the whole standard. This is Sgt. Pepper. Here's the track listing. Boom.
Which is odd because most people will point to certain key songs, and this is one of them that they'll point to because it is so out there. Because not only
I appreciate its innovativeness. It works with the album.
Oh yes, because it works because it's like the different. It's almost like the whole album is a carnival, and like you get the individual acts. You get the happy Paul doing Getting Better. You get the sad Paul doing She's Leaving Home, and then you get the actual circus tune in here, which I thought was which I agree with you. I like it in the context of the album a lot, and it's a great side one closer.
Yeah.
Because you get. It depends on how you look at it. To me, it was very happy, and of course, when Garrett hears it, if it ends the side, you kind of go, "That was different."
Yeah. I just go, "Oh, I hope the rest of the album's this good."
Oh yes, and according to John himself, inspired by I believe what was it, a poster?
It was a poster of a carnival that took place in like the 1830s, I think.
Something like that. The story behind it's really cool.
Do tell.
No, just the fact that it is a poster from like the 18 whatever.
Yeah.
I just think it's really cool.
Right. I believe he found that while they were filming. I think it was the Strawberry Fields video.
Yeah.
He found that, and it's kind of cool that he could just take that and just make envision what the circus was really like,
right,
and bring that to life. And I love the whole 3/4 section where he does the waltz in the middle. Which
I like that too. I appreciate that part a lot. Looking back, I'm finding little things that I appreciate more and more about it. But...
Right. Yeah. But as a kid, that scared the crud out of me because you heard the.
I like that little eerie thing.
Oh, I like it now.
It is scary. It is eerie. It is creepy and spooky.
Right. And I love the idea. It's just the images of like the horses waltzing and Mr. Kite doing the somersaults. Well, actually, it's Somersets, but I assume that's English slang.
I don't even know what that is. Even that's one thing I just keep scratching my head. Like, what exactly is a Somerset? I assume it is something like a somersault.
Right. And if you pick up the anthology, you get the 2 alternate versions, which are really cool to listen to. So I like the song. I think, like I said, I think it's a great side one closer. And, kudos to John for writing such a wonderful song like this.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with side 2 of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band here on Triple Threat.
Yeah.
I don't really want to stop the show, but I thought you might like to know that this concludes part 1 of our conversation on Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. Be sure to join us for part 2, where we'll pick up where we left off. I'm Tom Rutia, and I'd like to thank my co-hosts Garrett Hicks and Becca Cristino for joining me once again for another edition of Triple Threat. If you, the listener, enjoyed this episode, be sure to favorite and share it via Facebook and or Twitter. And let us know what you thought of this episode, or what you think of Sgt. Pepper, by leaving us a comment or writing to us on our page at www.mixcloud.com/triplethreat, where you can also check out other episodes of the show. Before we go, we'd like to wish Becca a very happy birthday, and to say thank you all for listening to Triple Threat. We hope you have enjoyed the show. We're sorry, but it's time to go. From all of us here at Triple Threat, thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Oh, lordy. There goes my phone. Anyways.
Let's cut and paste this talking about it.
No, it's good.
Okay. You don't like Mr. Kite? What's your problem?
It's okay. It's not my favorite on the album. I don't know. It's not bad. It's not something I'd seek out outside of the context of the album.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
I like it on the album. Like, it just flows. It works with what I view Sgt. Pepper's as.
Yeah, I get what you mean. At least it's not, Eddie Izzard's version, right?
Wait, what version?
The version from Across the Universe.
Oh, good thing we did not bring that up.
I kind of wanted to.
Perhaps that might add to why it's not my favorite. Probably just remembering that.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I mean, Across the Universe has some really choice cuts on it, but that's not one of them.
I mean, I used to really like that version, actually. Mainly just for the spoken bit in the middle, and now I look at it and I'm like, that was so dumb. But at least I thought the imagery in that part of the visual images of that part of the movie were good.
Right. Well,
because you're not looking at Eddie Izzard himself.
Right. I only saw that movie once, and the thing I remember about it is that I think it was shortly after that they did that scene where they're on the grass and they're singing "Because."
Yeah, that was cool.
Oh, to me, that's my favorite song on the sound. Well, I don't know. I like a lot of them, but that's probably my favorite. I mean, right now, at this time that I'm recording it, that's my favorite song on there.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, after that point where they trip balls and make a road trip from New York to California in one night, I kind of feel like after that, the movie kind of goes downhill.
Wait, which movie are we talking about? Sorry, I had to leave the room.
Across the Universe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about the actual movie.
Yeah, the second half of it was kind of just, whatever.
Yeah, there was definitely a dull stretch around that point.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a habit of getting really good soundtracks and then watching the movie and being disappointed.
Yeah.
Because I also have the soundtrack for I Am Sam, which is, again, all Beatle covers, but I've never seen the movie.
It's actually very good. I would highly recommend it.
Hey, because the soundtrack, again, has some very choice cuts on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They use those songs in movie, and, they do, some of them are okay.
Oh, I like them a lot. I know that Rufus Wainwright gets a lot of crap for his version of Across the Universe. I like that version, actually.
I thought it was meh.
Right. Well, the only thing I don't like about it is...
Across the Universe is my favorite Beatles song in the history of ever. So
good.
So it has to be done right.
Yeah, I'm very picky nitpicky about the way it does it. As far as I'm concerned, the version on Let It Be Naked is the epitome of everything that is across.
You are correct.
See,
You are so correct. That version is so beautiful.
I know, you can just see John sitting and playing the guitar while you listen to
Yes.
well, also,
in front of you singing to you, and it just.
well, also, I'm proud because they took that one and they removed Phil Spector's, ice cream pile.
Hey, you know what? That version isn't too bad, actually.
It's not bad, but
The naked version is miles above it.
Of course, the naked version
it's a beautiful song when you first hear that thing, and then you hear the Let It Be Naked one and think, why would there be any other version ever?
Well, yeah, but I do appreciate the Spector version for what it is because John likes that version.
Right, but
anything else, and I respect that he likes the more solemn tone set up by the Spector version.
right, but even with the Phil Spector overdubs, The Long and Winding Road just does nothing for me.
No.
Oh my, no.
When we tried to do the Beatles things where we talk about the worst songs ever,
That was one of them.
I was gonna say Long and Winding Road because that version sucks.
I agree. I would go on forever about how I just do not like that song.
I just don't like the song in general. I feel so bad for Paul.
It's lame. It's so long and drawn out. The long and drawn
Drawing
out.
road.
Okay, I will say that the album version, the version that everyone knows that is all orchestrated and shit.
It's schmaltz.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. There's this one time when my parents and I were listening to Let It Be on a car ride, and my dad and I kept making atrocious noises for the horn noises. And we just go, and my mom was like, oh, stop, I like that song. And we were like, no.
Nope.
Maybe that's why Paul's done it so many times. He's trying to reclaim it, and he's not getting it any better.
However, I really like the version that comes from the Let's Put the Beatles Together Again, which is most of the Let It Be Naked version with the middle eight taken from the anthology take.
Right. Which, by the way, that middle version, I don't like this, especially when it is many times I've been alone, and many times it's like enough. Stop.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Right. Yeah. I don't think it was a good choice for a single.
I also don't think that was a good vocal take in that version, which they actually used for the Spectorized Long and Winding Road, making it even worse than it already was.
Right.
But
I think,
the
yeah.
naked version with that middle eight from that one take is just yes.
Yeah. I have heard two exceptional versions. Ones that I'll go, they're not bad. I still hate the song, but the performance is not bad. It's the Wings Over America live version, and actually the cover that Ray Charles did.
Oh, he did that?
Well, yeah.
That's BA.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Because I think Paul actually said he was thinking of Ray Charles doing it, and I think he's only done it live. I don't think it's on any of his albums.
Okay.
But I have heard it, and I thought it was done well.
That sounds definitely worth listening to. Holy moly.
Right. And when Rolling Stone put out their issue of the 100 greatest Beatles songs, I was glad that was not on the list. Yeah. I don't think it was a good choice for a single.
Yeah, because that's
Sucks.
yeah. I mean, I actually do think the song when it was produced and performed as it was meant to be is actually an excellent song and is worthy of being a number one.
But it's so slow.
Shut up. I used to hate it. I really did. Even when I heard the naked version, I'm like, sure, but the song still sucks.
Right. It's
now that I've given it some time, and I've actually grown up a bit, I can't help but enjoy it.
I enjoy it. That doesn't mean that it's still one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. It's not my favorite, of course.
Because I think I told you when I saw Paul in 2005. I had to go to the bathroom, but I was like, oh, I'm hearing these great songs, and I was like, okay, I'll go into their next song. Close your eyes. Oh, no, I have to hear it. And then I was like, okay.
Okay, bye.
I was like, thank you, bye-bye. But when I saw him in 2009, I felt bad because I was like, you know what? I missed the first time. I'll stay this time.
Yeah.
I don't think I actually went to the bathroom at all that second show. I think I heard every song.
There you go.